Happy New Year, but same old fortunes for England. Only time will tell, of course, because we head into the Sydney Test, which starts on the 5th of Jan, and we have James Buttler to preview it with us, as usual, on cricket.com. James, first and foremost, Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year to you as well. Happy New Year to all your viewers too. I'm very well,
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah, it's been an interesting Christmas. Obviously, at the moment, England unbeaten in 2022.
yeah, unbeaten because they haven't played yet. But what was your celebrations like on New Year's Day? I mean, how did you bring it in? Was it a quiet one this time around?
It was a very quiet one for me because I was working on New Year's Day, so had to go to bed fairly early and get up fairly early. But generally speaking, in England, it tends to be too much drink and not enough sleep. But that wasn't me this time.
All right, fair play to you then. Let's get straight into what I want to ask you about this fourth test because look, there's been a slew of COVID casualties. The latest being the the Cricket Australia CEO Nick Hockley has come out positive. Now, no Silverwood, no Travis Head. Can you give us more information if any more players are going to be missing this test?
As far as I understand it, the majority of players' COVID tests have come back negative. I do think we're in a very difficult situation. I think the Ashes is on a little bit of a knife edge. I tweeted yesterday. Fair enough. This was at the start of the COVID experience, but the England's hardly got the word coronavirus out of their mouths in South Africa before they were boarding the plane to come home. England didn't go to Pakistan for only 2 or 3 days when really there wasn't, I don't think, too much of a threat involved in going to Pakistan at that stage for a few one-day matches. But England seemed to be intent on staying in Australia regardless of how many COVID tests come back positive. At the moment, we have, obviously, the majority of the playing staff have been untarnished by COVID. Travis Head, unfortunately, wish him well, but he was the one that tested positive. But Glenn McGrath, a few people in the media have tested positive for COVID too. It's very, very close, isn't it, to getting into the squads and getting into the squads properly. So they've got to be very, very careful. It does seem to me to be a bit of an illustration of where the money in cricket is, because South Africa, Pakistan, with all due respect, aren't quite as lucrative to England as tours against India and tours against Australia. They're the big three. And I think if England were in South Africa and exactly the same thing was happening, they would probably be on their way back home now. And that can't be right for world cricket. I think if the IPL was starting tomorrow, England would probably be on their way back home now, as India did in England. So there is a little bit of an imbalance of power, isn't there, in the way the world's game works, which I don't think long-term is very healthy. We need to get to a situation where India, Australia and England are a little bit more helpful to some of the lesser nations or smaller nations, if that's the right phrase.
Yeah, it makes you think. I mean, this whole year and how you've said certain events have, of course, trickled by the way if those big three have played their cards. All right, let's talk about on-field matters then, because when we take a look at history, it suggests that England don't like playing at Sydney, not very much. They've, of course, got, 2 wins? 2002 comes to mind, 2002, 2003 rather, and the 2011 test, of course, comes to mind. How will England view this? I'm surely thinking here, it's not a dead rubber, is it?
Avanish, you can look at any venue in Australia and England probably haven't got a very good record there. So Sydney's probably not too different to anywhere else, is it really? But I saw Zach Crawley coming out to say that England are getting their heads down, they're working hard, they want to come away 3-2 with a 3-2 defeat rather than a 5-0. A 5-0, I think in his words, he said, without Australia walking all over us. I'm sorry to report, Zach, but there are footprints of Australian footprints all over England at the moment. They are dead rubbers. They've obviously got points for the World Test Championship. But to be honest with you, I don't think the World Test Championship has really caught fire yet in the English psyche. I think some of the other countries, obviously New Zealand winning it last time. I think India are taking the World Test Championship more seriously than England are. But I think if you ask most English fans, indeed Australian fans, they would prefer to win the World Test Championship or the Ashes, they would plump for the Ashes. So in that respect, these are two dead rubbers at the end of the series. England can't get the urn. England are 3-0 down, two to play. It's looking pretty bleak. And there has been a real post-mortem starting in England. I've seen a lot of tweets. I've tweeted myself about the future of first-class cricket in England, how England can bounce back from this and be stronger and get a stronger county championship, maybe lessen the priority on white ball cricket, which has really come in England with the 100 and the T20 Blast, really monopolising the big summer months of the English calendar, and how they can actually put some life into the county championship, make that stronger, make more matches actually count, and make England stronger in red ball cricket. It's not going to be an overnight fix either. England, I think T20 encourages bowlers to be better. Bowlers have to get a few more tricks and a few more things to actually work out how to get batsmen out in T20 and how to be economical and how to be successful in T20 cricket. Batsmen just have to really clear the front leg and hit it as far as possible in T20. That doesn't work in Test matches. So if you build that, if that's the foundation of your technique, you're not going to have a very long Test career. You need to have that. The forward defensive, playing in the V, all of the usual things underpinning your technique in Test cricket, and then maybe add a few of the cherries on top to play T20. I think England at the moment have got it the wrong way round, and England need to really revisit how they view red ball cricket in this country. And that, as I say, is not going to be an overnight fix. I don't think. I think that the Test team at the moment, they're out there, they're trying, they're out there, they're working as hard as they can. At the moment, I just don't think they're good enough.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to on-field performances. It's been shambolic. 2021 is a year that English cricket will like to forget and forget quickly, especially in terms of Test cricket, like you said, because they've kind of ticked a lot of boxes in the one-day scheme of things in the last 3 to 4 years, with Morgan being really aggressive as a captain. And not to say Root hasn't, but just let's see how it all unfolds, because he's going to be captaining England for the 60th time when that fourth Test is, of course, kicked off in Sydney. So that's a lot of Test matches. It makes you think who's going to be the next skipper. Now, Ben Stokes has gone on to say he doesn't have any ambition to be captain of this side. He still wants to play under this Root Silverwood era, which is an opinion from his side. How do you view things? Because look, there's another name coming up in the ring, so to speak, which is Gary Kirsten, and he wants Alistair Cook. What do you make of it, James, from the outset?
I think it's a very complicated situation. I think Joe Root isn't the perfect captain. I don't think he would say he's the perfect captain. I also don't think he's the worst captain in the world. At the moment, he's got not too many. If your batting team, if Joe Root fails at the moment, the batting team gets rolled for 150. You're not going to win Test matches. And that's not Joe Root's fault. He can't go out there and score runs for them. Unfortunately, I mean, if England could clone Joe Root and have 6 of him, then England would be better. England would be winning the Ashes. And that's as simple as it. England are probably 2 world-class batsmen, 2 Test quality batsmen away from being competitive in this Ashes series. That isn't Joe Root's fault. But if as I understand it, the dressing room wants Joe Root to continue. I think Joe Root is the sort of person that would want to continue. Whether that's right or wrong, remains to be seen. But one thing in Joe Root's favour is that there aren't any obvious candidates to replace him. You look through that England side at the moment, as you mentioned, Ben Stokes. I don't think necessarily wants it, but if you look at his disciplinary record, he's a bit of a hothead. He's also had mental health problems throughout 2021. It's unfair on him and the workload he has in that Test team to lumber him with something else to do. Joe Root's been carrying that Test side. I don't know if Ben Stokes can do that. You look around the rest of that Test team, Rory Burns has got experience of captaincy with Surrey, but Rory Burns is on the edge of, well, he's been dropped, hasn't he, and in the squad, but whether his long-term future in that Test squad is very much in doubt. James Buttler, exactly the same. Should he be the Test keeper? Possibly not. And Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson, A, they're bowlers, and that's not traditionally how England go with captaincy. But B, they're coming to the twilights of their career. So if they were going to be appointed, they would only be a stopgap. So I think if you're looking within the squad, Joe Root is your man to carry it forward, unless England are brave. There are people in county cricket, James Vince, who is being rumoured to be being thought about as a comeback kid.
But can they afford to do that? I mean, take someone in from the cold like that and then throw them into the spotlight? I mean, are the ECB famous for doing that over the years? I don't
Well,
think
no,
so,
they're not
right?
famous. They're famous for being cautious rather than
Yeah.
really rolling the dice. But if you're going to really try and do something, then somebody like James Vince, Tom Abel from Somerset, Sam Billings has got captaincy experience at Kent. You've got Will Rhodes, who has just won the championship with Warwickshire. They're all players that are kind of like bubbling around the edges of the Test team. So it's not like they're terrible cricketers that you're bringing from nowhere. They're players that are being touted as potential Test players. Whether it's unfair on them to learn the game whilst the captain, but if they've got the right mentality and the right attitude, and they're strong enough as captains, they're probably strong enough as personalities to maybe weather that storm. So that's a possibility going forward. But I think the way England will play it will be somewhere in between. I think they'll probably keep Joe Root for now. And then they will try and maybe bring in a Tom Abel or a Will Rhodes or whoever they see as being a potential future captain, and try and get him some Test matches under his belt before he is then given the captaincy, should Joe Root want to kind of give it away further down the line. Gary Kirsten's an interesting one. I thought he was handed the... I mean, he was obviously asked the question, would you be interested in the coaching role? He said yes. I've got no objection to him saying yes. Obviously, we've got to be very conscious that Chris Silverwood is still in that job, and at the moment isolated in a hotel room, and everybody, I think, wishes him well in terms of coming back from COVID. But you can't argue that Chris Silverwood's had a very tough time in Australia. Whether he's the future England coach or not, I'm not sure. His credentials aren't strong at the moment. Gary Kirsten might be the person for that. He's obviously got previous experience. The thing with Gary Kirsten having issues is that he, as a Test player, was a gritty, determined, top-order batsman who knew how to try and get the best out of himself and to make runs in the Test arena, which is exactly the qualities that England are lacking at the moment. So in terms of his own CV, he's the kind of maybe the missing piece in the jigsaw for that top order. Having said all of that, a final point is that unless we get the system right in England, they're all going to be handed a poison chalice, because if you've not got the talent coming through the English system and you haven't got the Test batsmen and Test quality players coming into that Test team, you could put God in charge of that side, and he's going to struggle to make it work. So you've got to try and get everything right. But I think you need the right people in the right positions. You need to get Test quality players through, and you need to get the system right in England to further that Test team and to get young kids actually wanting to play a cover drive rather than a slog sweep. All of those things have got to be done, and that isn't going to be an overnight fix. Gary Kirsten's appointed tomorrow. He hasn't got a huge amount to play with.
I completely agree with you in that regard, but it makes me think about one problem which has really been a disease for England, which is selection. I mean, every pundit has gone on to say that this tour, and I mean, many tests in 2021, the selection's been absolutely awful. It seems like they were saving all their best players for this Ashes tour, but that hasn't, really folded out the way they wanted to be. So would you really kind of put a finger on Silverwood and Root for selection? Because on field, they can only do so much.
I mean, the buck stops with Chris Silverwood with selection. And first of all, I'd say that a lot of people are now saying they're criticising the rest and rotation policy.
Yeah.
Now, it's all very well saying that, because obviously we were 3-0 down in an Ashes series and everything's pretty gloomy, and it makes you look good if you say, well, the rest and rotation was wrong. But I at the time I said it was the right thing to do, and it would be wrong of me to say it was the wrong thing to do now, because if you're looking after human beings that are playing all formats, that don't spend very long in their own beds at home, if they're always on the coach or on the plane with England, you've got to look after these people in COVID bubbles. So I think the rest and rotation policy was the right thing, apart from maybe how they handled Moeen Ali in the towards the end of the Indian tour. But the rest and rotation policy, I don't think is to blame with this. But if you look at the selections for the Ashes, then Chris Silverwood's come out and said that he would select exactly the same teams for the first and second Test matches. Well, that's a stupid thing to say, because you got battered in both of them, and if you look at it in the cold light of day, or most of us in advance of those Test matches, you'd have probably played the team for the second Test in the first Test match, and the team for the first Test match in the second Test match. I don't think it does anybody any good when you're 3-0 down not to admit that you've made a few mistakes here and there, because that doesn't make you look, because you obviously have. If you're 3-0 down and you've done all the planning that you think you have, You haven't got it right, have you? So I don't think that makes any sense to say that you've got selection perfect throughout, because you quite patently haven't. That said, Avanish, if you're looking ahead to the fourth and fifth Test match, England have only got the squad that they've got out there, so it's a chance, I guess, for a few of them to stake a claim for the future. Get a big 100 in Sydney or Hobart, or take a fifer and say, I want to be part of this England team long term, because there is a danger that a lot of them could play their last Test matches in Australia, because the mood in England is so much that they're going to be looking for a change and a different route forward. And obviously, if new people come in at the top of the tree, Gary Kirsten, whoever comes in, they might have different ideas on who they want to see in that Test team. So it's a chance for an Ollie Pope or a Dan Lawrence or a Don Bess, if he gets an opportunity, or Jack Leach or whoever, to actually show that they are Test quality and put their name in the frame for those future Test matches. But so that's the positive way, I guess, of looking at these last two Test matches, is that although the series is gone and the urn has gone, the pride has got to be played for, and places are being played for, and Test futures are being played for, and that's quite a motivation, I guess, for quite a lot of those players.
Absolutely, and it also makes you think about players, like you said, who, of course, will be chomping in the bits to get some sort of solace from this series. But I want to talk about Stuart Broad, and is there any talk about retirement going on? Because that's been a little bit about chatter, but he's put that to bed, saying, "Look, you can't judge me in this Ashes series where I played 1 out of 3 tests." Do you think there will be room for him in this fourth and fifth? I mean, this test in particular.
Um, I don't know about this test series. Obviously, Chris Silverwood's made a call on Stuart Broad, and as you say, he's only played one of the three. He's decided to go another way. Um, Whether I'd have done that or not, I don't think I probably would have done. I'd have played him in at least two of the three so far,
Yeah.
because you've got a lot of experience and a lot of wickets and a lot of nous there inside Stuart Broad's head and body. So I think he's been underutilised. I think the danger with Stuart Broad, I mean, England can't rely on Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad forever, and they are getting older. I mean, I think they're as fit as they've probably ever been, and I think they've certainly got some Test matches going on. But whether England can afford to play both of them in the same team, um, and limiting the chances of potential replacements, maybe play one and rotate, and allow Mark Wood and Chris Wokes in home conditions, and a few of the others, Ollie Robinson, to get more tests under the belt. Hopefully, Jofra Archer comes back into the mix. I don't know the latest on Ollie Stone's fitness, but he's a player that, if he can get himself fit, I'd like to see get more Test matches. So the opportunities for Stuart Broad might be a little bit more limited further down the line. But I mean, there's no doubt that as English fans, first and foremost, we need to savour every last over of Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson. They've been absolutely incredible in an England Test shirt. That won't go on forever, and we need to kind of try and soak them into our eyes so we can remember them in future years, because we are watching legends of the English game, probably in their twilight years for England. But it'd be nice to see them play as much as possible. Stuart Broad's future, I mean, I guess that's down to him. I think, to a degree, Broad and Anderson have both earned the right to decide how they go out of Test cricket. Um, Obviously they can't milk that and go on until they're 83, but I think they will know. I think they won't want to tarnish their legacy. They'll know how their bodies are feeling. They'll know how they're bowling, and they will know if they still have something to offer that Test team. And you hear a lot of players say that when it comes to it, they get out of bed one morning, there's a pain in the back, and their right knee's feeling a bit dodgy, and they're not quite as keen to get to the nets as they used to be. And they suddenly think, maybe my time has come. And when that comes for Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, who knows? But hopefully we get a few more tests out of them just yet.
Yeah, I mean, as an Indian cricket fan, it's just been brilliant to see them both bowl in tandem. Sometimes, of course, in the last couple of years, one's played, one's missed up, but hopefully they play the last two and England get a consolation. Right, let's end this chat by asking you what's to look forward to 2022, James, from your perspective, because there's plenty of content that you guys dish out in the Cricket Badgers podcast. Check it out, guys. It's quite special. Cricket.com will always deliver great content. But, James, what are you looking forward to in this year? I mean, there's the World Cup down under, the IPL with 10 teams, of course. Anything else in your radar?
Well, the two you mentioned are big moments, aren't they? I'm looking forward to the auction for the IPL first and foremost to see how those 10 teams line up. It is possible, to be a Test fan in England and still like the IPL. A lot of people seem to be blaming the IPL, and obviously the IPL is a massive uh, set of fixtures across a very important time for English cricket, and it causes English cricket problems. But you can still actually like the IPL as a fan. So looking forward to that. England in the West Indies. I'd like to see England in the West Indies, without no disrespect to West Indies, but try and bring in a lot of new players into that Test squad. Maybe give Joe Root a rest for the West Indies trip. Maybe give Anderson and Broad a rest for the West Indies trip, and bring in some players and see what they can do ahead of an English summer. There's a danger for England, I think, that they get back to English conditions, suddenly start winning some Test matches again, and all of the current hurt that's in English supporters kind of gets diluted because, they've won a few Test matches. It can't be as bad as all that. There are obviously problems in English cricket that can't be forgotten. But there's a huge amount of cricket to look forward to, isn't there? There's so much to talk about. Even in a way, when England are losing from an English perspective, there's even more to talk about because we're talking about all the post-mortems and whether people have finished and who should be the replacements and all this kind of thing. So there is no shortage of words to be had on cricket, Avanish, as we go through 2022. Whether it's India, England, or elsewhere in the world, cricket is a fantastic form of entertainment. I love all formats. It's not. I've heard it called as format wars or whatever. I love white ball. I love red ball. Test cricket is probably, if I choose one format, it would be Test cricket. But I love all forms of cricket, and they always deliver, don't they? In some, whether it's disappointment, whether it's a fulfilment of hopes or disappointment, and they let you down. Your team and the cricket always delivers. It's always fun to watch, and it's always fun to talk about.
Yeah, I can't agree more with you. Absolutely second your thoughts. I'm a test match lover myself. Just watching that first session between South Africa and India in
Yeah.
Joburg, and it was riveting because these passages of play, you don't get these in terms of all the influx of T20 cricket going on. We really have to appreciate those little gems that we get in test
I,
match
I,
cricket. So,
I always think with Test match cricket, the way I always describe it is you get TV adverts and little programs on the TV which you find funny at the time, and you maybe talk about a little bit, but they're a bit more forgettable. Whereas you've got that's more your T20 end. Whereas Test match cricket is more like your feature film. It's your 2 hour epic. It's got sways of emotion. You've got you kind of lesser, more chilled parts of the film. Then you've got your action piece. Then you've got the kind of clever twist. Test cricket gives you all of that, and over 5 days, you invest your life into it. You watch it go from day one to hopefully day five. If it's England, maybe day 2.5, and you see it kind of like evolve in front of your very eyes, and it gives you the chance for a team to be on top, but to be pegged back and sways of ascendancy. Because I think you've invested so much of your life and your emotions into a Test match, you get more out of it. That's why I love Test cricket, anyway.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, James. I mean, people listening to you right now will just think Test cricket. I'm sure it's not boring the way James is describing it. But thank you so much, James, for your time in this elongated chat on cricket.com. Looking ahead to, of course, the Sydney Test match, which begins on the 5th of January. You can catch it on cricket.com. And like I said, you can visit James' channel as well. But it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you, I think, hopefully, with England pulling something back in the series, and we'll see you after Sydney, James.
I wouldn't hold your breath, Avanish. Our chats are getting longer because there is so much to talk about.
It is, of course. It's been riveting once again. Thank you so much, James. We'll leave it there, and we'll see you soon, ladies and gentlemen.